I contracted the herpes virus and went to the Duke University Medical Clinic, and they really couldn't help. And a friend of mine said, there's this other practitioner who works with herbs and things. Our number one rule is we don't eat grains because that's what herbivores eat. They have long necks so they can graze grass and grass seeds. Most American providers cut their oils with canola, and it's not on the label. When you experience real olive oil for the first time, people are shocked.
The Chronic Truth Podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views expressed by our guests are their personal opinions and do not constitute medical advice. While we share experiences and strategies related to health, neither the host nor the guest are acting as licensed medical professionals unless explicitly stated. Always consult your physician or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment plan. Listeners assume all risks associated with implementing any information discussed on this show.
Our guest today took charge of her health in the 1970s, the journey that led her to become board certified in clinical nutrition and to pioneer what we now call the Paleo diet, years before it had a name. Won't you please help me welcome Beverly Meyer?
Thank you for having me.
You are a passionate advocate for taking care of yourself. How did that all become about?
Well, back in the 70s when I was in college, I contracted the herpes virus and I was at Duke University. I went to the Duke University Medical Clinic, and they really couldn't help me. They just, at that time it was new. They just didn't really know much. And a friend of mine said, there's this other practitioner who works with herbs and things. Why don't you go see him? And I did, and he was not a doctor or a medical professional, but he helped me when they had not. And that's when my eyes opened to say, wow, there's a whole other world of healthcare, whether we call it natural health or alternative medicine or complementary medicine, or nowadays, like on my website and many others, we call it functional health care or functional medicine. So the phrase has kind of evolved over time, but the passion and the reason for it is the same, that we want to try to help fix the cause of what's going on, not just the symptoms.
Very good. Very good. What is the paleo diet? I've heard the name and I've also pronounced it incorrectly, but it's paleo. What is that diet?
Well, the word comes from the Paleolithic time in human history, which was not forever, but a very long period of time before we began to settle down and keep animals and raise grasses to feed the animals. So we were hunters and we were gatherers, and we didn't have plants and domesticated animals. And so that's the Paleolithic time in history, which is the bulk of our evolutionary time. So what we in biological or functional or ancestral health call it is, let's eat the way our biology speaks. Or another way to say that is follow your biology. And, if you're raising goats or if you're raising children or you're raising chickens, it doesn't matter. Follow the biology. What is it that maybe an exotic peacock, what does it need to eat? What is its native diet? And so that's where paleo comes in. And the number one tenet is no grains. And grains are the seeds of grasses. You've heard the term cereal grass, like as in Kellogg cereal. That's where Kellogg got the name, was that wheat and rice and corn and oats, these are, botanically, they're in the cereal grass family. That's why he called his foods breakfast cereals.
Breakfast cereal.
So our number one rule is we don't eat grains because that's what herbivores eat. They bend over. They don't bend. They have long necks. They have long necks so they can graze grass and grass seeds and other forage, whereas as hunters and gatherers, we hunt with our eyes, we hunt with motion, we look for motion because proteins move. A bird, a rabbit, a zebra, whatever. Humans hunt. When we hunt for motion, and horses just hunt for the next tasty bit of grass and grass seed. So there's more to it than that, but that's the main tenet is humans didn't evolve to eat grasses, and we don't have the right enzymes and digestion to handle them, and they're very inflammatory. So that's the start.
It's the start. With that diet, how does that help one that's fighting a chronic health condition?
Good question. Well, if you think about eating food that is not your correct food, like ultra-processed foods or, food colors or xanthan gum or synthetic whatever, canola oil, if you think about foods that are not proper, real, healthy foods that our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents might have eaten, then these foods we know these foods are inflammatory. So they activate our immune system in ways that we don't want, and we want to activate our immune system when we have an infection, but autoimmune is when we activate our immune system when it's attacking our own thyroid or skin or something. And so this is complicated, but in a quick nutshell, the lining of the gut, the microbiome of the gut, and the gut wall, when we eat foods that are bad for us and ultra-processed and grains and sugars and chemicals, they damage the wall, the lining of the intestine, and things then can pass through the wall of the intestine into our body. And that is when the immune system gets activated to go fight. Yeah, that sounds silly, but to go fight the chicken that you had for lunch. It's like, it's not supposed to be in my bloodstream. So that's a big piece of functional health, is that we've got to heal the gut and the microbiome, and that means soothing it with the foods it expects to eat and it knows how to handle. That's one piece of the puzzle.
Very good. My own personal story, I have end-stage liver disease as my primary diagnosis. And so I really tried to eat lean and green, just for too much protein for myself. It causes me to get brain fog, but I have medication that helps, helps the liver do what it's supposed to do in essence. And I find that when I eat fast food or processed foods, I swell up my body. I get more brain fog than I do if I eat, like too much red meat, basically, is what my problem tends to stem around, is red meat. So I tend to do chickens and turkey and, fish and that sort of stuff. But I feel that we have such a society these days that is quick. We just pop it in the microwave. We don't read what's in it, and we just eat it. And then we suffer the consequences, whether it's immediately or years down the line, that we've put all this toxins in our body.
Well, a lot of this started, I'm a child of the 50s. I was born in the 50s, and our generation that were coming out of World War II and Korean War and so on, there was a period of financial boom and stability, and people, the housewives, they didn't want to cook anymore. They wanted fast foods, or your TV dinners and things that came quickly. So they were their parents my grandparents. They were the last generation of basically cooking food, because of course you cooked your food. And then of course it's gotten worse with every generation that we don't cook. But the way that I like to teach my clients, because every consult I do with people, no matter why they're coming to me, it might be migraines, it might be anxiety, it might be weight or whatever. I always start with diet, but we want to incorporate the best of modern healthcare. So that's, staying off of crazy websites and doing weird things to ourselves. That's not modern healthcare.
Nope.
So you need to find trusted advisors, myself and the people like I trust when I'm researching something for someone. And, there are a few good sites that are high quality professional alternative and functional medicine websites. And to me, that's where you're going to get help. But anyway, so the processed foods, we just stopped cooking, and everything became canned and instant and freeze dried and fast. And so that's one of the first things I do with clients is say, look, here's my quick takeaway tip. What I do, and I have a free ebook on my website if you want to give that link to people, but is the animals and the vegetables, I cook them in one couple of hour attack. All the ovens, the slow cooker, the grill, all 4 burners, everything is going. You're steaming vegetables one after another in large. You need big, large steamers, like 10, 12 quart. And then the proteins are generally in the oven and the grill and the slow cooker. So the goal is forget recipes, just make it not raw food anymore. So now you've got all these variety of just simply steamed or whatever, cooked food. You keep them, and then you just can open your fridge and say, oh, let's see, what shall I have for breakfast? The salmon and the wilted spinach, those are going to not last very long. Let's have those first. And so at the time of a meal, you can do more to your food if you want. If you want to stir fry that steamed bok choy, go ahead and stir fry it up with some olive oil and garlic or whatever. But the food's already cooked and it's there, and you can make 3 meals because you've got breakfast and you're leaving the house. You want to take a couple meals with you. You can throw those meals together, in 5 minutes, and this keeps us out of the danger zone
of getting off the diet. Do you find that when a person is trying to start a new diet and they reach out to you, do you have like a plan that you set them up to, a specific plan on, buy this grocery list and start them off that way? Or how do you normally?
It's yes and no. It's what I was just saying is that I've got a small ebook, 16 pages that people can download and print out. And it says, okay, step 1, go get your veggies out of the fridge. And step 2, let's start, washing them, and let's get your steamer going, getting your grill turned on. And so it's that way. It's teaching people, oh, I don't have to look up some exotic recipe and go to 3 stores to get special ingredients, and then everybody eats it in, 5 minutes, and it's like, what's the point? So what we want to do is just collect and process and cook the raw materials, so then we can do what we want, whether you have time or not. And I'll tell you here, for people listening, here's how you get that ebook free. Go to my website on diet and health, on dietandhealth.com, or just look me up, Beverly Meyer Nutrition. And if you open any article, there's hundreds of articles and podcasts, but just open any one of them and go to the very bottom of the page, and it'll have a recipe-free cooking ebook, and just put your name in there as a subscribe to my newsletter. But you'll immediately download that ebook. And fair warning, if you're like me, you need to print it out immediately as soon as it hits your download, because you're going to lose it, and it's like, where did that go? So just highlight it and print it out immediately, and boom, you'll now how to cook again in a much faster, more efficient way.
Now, do you do any frying of food? Is yours, I hear you talking steaming and grilling. Do you steer away from frying the food?
I do, and for a couple of reasons. Proteins, fats, and cooked vegetables. This is what our diets historically were based on, is proteins, fats, and cooked vegetables. And when I say protein, that includes all of the animals, the organs and the fats and everything, because we wouldn't waste any of the animals. So, but the fat not only, of course, has to be the right kind of fat. Now, that's a whole other description and podcast. But to me, if the plainer you can prepare your food, then it's more adjustable to different things. Like if you sauteed that chard in garlic and olive oil, well, it may not go with that chicken, but if it's just cooked, then you could do it all in hot sauce or whatever that you want. So that's why I don't like to pre-flavor things. And then when I go to eat is when I add my fat. And this also means that I can judge, hey, have I gotten a couple good tablespoons of fat today? Fat should be 40% of our calories, believe it or not. And that's not keto. If you've heard of keto is a crazy thing. And that's like 80% of your calories come from fat, which is insane. So, but we know from historical studies of people without grocery stores that basically 40% of our calories come from fat. So I want to make sure I'm getting enough and getting good quality fats. And if I load my meal with fats as I am eating or preparing this warming up of things, then I know where I am. And fat is, humans are fat burners. We have become carbohydrate or sugar burners, but we're born to be fat burners. And we process fat brilliantly. And for the most part, it's the carbs that make us sick. So yeah, that's why we get the grains out of there first thing, and obviously the sugars and the the M&Ms or whatever. A little treat now and then's okay, but getting those big pieces of the puzzle, like instead of the grains, yeah, I'm going to eat a lot more lightly cooked, sauteed veggies, some salads, and a lot more animals, as diverse as you can. You may find that your liver is actually much happier if you do start eating grain-free, that suddenly you're like, wow, I want some animals and I want some fats. And it's like, yeah, the body's like, yeah, I mean, the liver just turns out bile by the quart. I mean, it makes a lot of bile and we use it to digest fat. But we also use it to help detoxify heavy metals and lots of things in the body. So, when we eat fat, as soon as our mouth senses that, we start generating and releasing the stored bile and things to digest it. So we're built for it.
Now, when you say fats, I'm going to have a listener, I'm sure, ask this. What type of fat are you talking about? Like the fat on the steak or the fat on the skin of the chicken? What are you talking about as far as fat?
Well, first rule, any fat is only as good as the animal or the health of the tree that it came from. So that's number one, that you want to, as to the maximum extent that your budget will allow, you want pastured animals. So animals that are raised on pasture and finished on pasture. And this is a big silent fraud in a lot of the meat industry. they'll say, grass-fed beef. Well, all cows eat grass.
Ooh,
They don't
touche.
they don't eat bamboo. They eat grass. The trick is that after 6 or 8 weeks, are they left to live on grass for their life until they reach the proper weight and fat and so on in a couple of years? Or are they shipped off to feedlots? So I don't eat feedlot meat. That's bad for the environment, and that fat is converted to omega-6 fat. And if anybody knows anything about fats, omega-3 is what we want, omega-9 is what we want, and omega-6 is what we don't want. And that's like canola oil and corn oil and soybean oil and soybeans and safflower and sunflower. So we don't eat those oils. We never evolved to eat those oils, and they're highly inflammatory and cause fatty liver disease and weight problems and liver problems, a lot of things. So when you're getting high quality butter, ghee, Ghee. I'm a big fan of ghee, and there's a company called Pure Indian Foods. Pure Indian Foods. It's a company from India, 5th generation ghee maker. They make the best ghee in the world. I have a podcast with them I did, 12 years ago. So butter and ghee. And then if you have pastured meats, you should save the fat that comes off of it when you're baking it or grilling it or slow cook or whatever. Save that fat, and because you can use it tomorrow to saute your chard or whatever.
Very good. I was just wondering. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the old tradition of, cook up bacon and store the fat in a coffee can, right?
Lard.
It's, it's the same kind of thing. Lard, yes, there is a big market in the fat from pastured heritage pork, which is completely different from the factory farms of pink pig. So I tell people, I don't eat pink pig. People say that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard anybody say. But I do eat heritage pork, which you can get from the websites that sell fully pastured meats. And it's delicious, and there's no problem at all eating it, and it's fat. And then there's coconut oil. Now, the reason why coconut oil is good for us is that it's obviously from a tree, not from an animal, and it is a combination of saturated and unsaturated fats. And if you think about it, about the earth, and then there's the equator that goes around the earth. The equator, which is quite large, the area around it, is where coconuts grow. And the rest of the planet, where it's colder, is where you get elk and salmon and big game that have that kind of fat. So saturated fat from coconuts, we didn't get left out. If you're going to live in a forest with coconuts, you can get fat too. You don't have to travel 1,000 miles to get saturated fat from a pastured elk or something. And then olive oil, if you're sure it's 100% olive, and trust me, you're not sure, because there are no laws requiring truth and labeling on this. And if you want to be sure you have good olive oil, buy foreign olive oil. France, Italy, Spain, Argentina, they do not cut it with canola oil. But most American providers cut their oils with canola, and it's not on the label. So good olive oil is going to be in a dark glass bottle. B, it's going to be more expensive than all the other junk that's on the shelf with it. C, it might be American if it's a dedicated olive grower in America that grows and sells their olive oil. They don't send it off in a big tanker to Whole Foods or Bertolli or something. And finally, good olive oil is green in color, and it has a distinctive taste and flavor and smell. So, if your olive oil is kind of a little bit beige and a little bit like, nothing, that is not olive oil. That is canola oil with 10% or something olive oil thrown in there. When you experience real olive oil, really for the first time, people are shocked. And that's why for the American taste, because we like things mild, that's why, and of course the finances of it, we water it down with canola oil, which is cheap and tasteless and terrible for
And
us.
bad. Yeah.
And avocado oil also is a good oil. The brand I eat is from Chosen Foods. Chosen Foods. That seems to me to be pure because it can also be watered down with canola oil. So watering is not the right term. It can be thinned out with the canola. But I use Chosen Foods avocado, and then good pastured pork tallow, ghee, butterfat, coconut oil. I use them all.
You talk about in your intro here that you like to help people with their sleep. And I know those with chronic health conditions, sleep is very deprived in our community. What do you offer those of us that are, sleep deprived? What could we do to get better sleep, or a suggestion of eating, or how would you do that?
Well, that's a huge topic. I have like 5 podcasts and 8 articles on sleep because it is a complex question. It's a good question, but let me try to hit some highlights. Wow. Number one, if you have eaten hearty foods, just like I've been talking, your blood sugar is going to be more stable. Your brain is going to be more satiated. Your brain's going to be more stable. Your nervous system is going to be more stable when you have been eating hearty foods and not fasting or just having a little salad or, whatever these weird things that we've come up with that are just not right for us. Okay. So number one, yes, let's be satisfied, hearty meals. And by the way, when people eat the paleo diet correctly, you're going to lose weight. So, which is great for people that are holding extra body fat, which comes from eating too many carbs. And when you stop burning sugar for fuel, but start burning fats for fuel and protein, you're going to lose weight. So I'm already a very slim person, which is why I make sure that I add enough fats to my diet, and I don't skimp on anything. People are always horrified with this. Oh my gosh, you eat that 4 times a day? I say, yes, I do. But there's no bread or pasta or giant potatoes or, cookies or pie or whatever to fill up my plate. It's proteins, fats, cooked vegetables, a little fruit, some nuts and seeds, some occasional, some eggs and this and that. But, so being well fed is going to help your nervous system. Number one. Number two, again, follow the biology. If you were living in a time without electricity, you know that it's daytime, the sun is up, it's a blue sky, and it's nighttime, it's dark, time to sleep. So our whole physiology is wired around blue day sun, night dark sleep. And so it's important. We've all heard, don't scroll on your phones and get blue light in your eyes at night and all of this, but it's bigger question than that. It's that you want to be dimming the lights in your home as night falls. You want to try to mimic some darkness. No fluorescent lighting or LED lights. That's like absolutely not, because your body still thinks, well, I thought I knew what time it was, but it's blazing blue lights in here, which you can't see they're blue, but they are. So that's number two is when after I eat dinner, I have only 2 lamps in a 4-bedroom house. So the house gets dim and I wear blue light blocker glasses, which are dark amber in color. They're different than when you go on Amazon and search blue light blockers. Those are clear lenses that are designed to reflect blue from a computer screen. That's not what I'm talking about. And then you need to not schedule or have activities at night of, no, that's not when you go run your 5 miles or, struggle with, I don't know. Yeah, well, trying to put 4 kids to bed. Okay, that's, there's an issue there, but learning how to do that in a way that's calm and productive. And then there is a supplement that's really important for that aspect of our nervous system, anxiety and sleep. So this is a little more advanced, but we have 4 major neurotransmitters, and one that you've never heard of is called GABA, G-A-B-A, just like it sounds. And the GABA neurotransmitter is what governs our obsessive thinking or over breathing or being a little anxious or sweaty or a little hyper, a little compulsive, anxious, scared, whatever. It covers much more than that. But if you take the right kind of GABA, not the one on the shelf at the drugstore, it will, right at bedtime, it will absolutely help you sleep. And we sell a lot of it. I have an online store for things right in my clinic that, we pack them from the clinic shelves. I'm not like a warehouse. And the Pharma GABA, pharma like pharmaceutical, Pharma GABA, it's a fermented GABA chewable. And you can chew that up right before bed and you'll definitely fall asleep and may help extend your night sleep. And for those of us that wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes you can take a half a GABA, but if you have to get up in 2 hours, that's not ideal. You want to try herbs like passion flower and valerian and California poppy, skullcap. Those 4 herbs are very soothing, and each of us is a little bit different. Maybe you're awake because you're cold or you're hungry or your dog or your partner are bothering you, or maybe you're awake because you're worrying about something you said today and your mind is spinning. So you have to learn. This is true for all normal health as well as chronic health problems, is the more you observe yourself and understand what just changed. Like, this is interesting. I don't normally get hungry at 2:00 in the afternoon. Why am I hungry today at 2:00 or whatever? The more you can observe something, better, worse, different, the more you can write it down, the more you can learn, that's interesting. I forgot to have fat with my lunch today, or I was really nervous about that being on that podcast today, and so my heart rate is up, or whatever it is. That's how we learn.
How can our listeners get in touch with you? You did mention your website. We're going to have the links to all of your socials. Are you on any social media channels?
Well, I actually do a lot on Pinterest.
Okay.
I know it's old-fashioned, but I do a lot on Pinterest there. And I find it's a great platform for me because on my website, ondietandhealth.com, it's a huge website. And I cover like 100 different topics. And, and then I podcast on most of them as well, on Primal Diet, Modern Health. I stopped using Facebook a couple of years ago when Google changed that famous algorithm that they do, and they stopped showing the feeds from natural health people like chiropractors or nutritionists. They just stopped showing their feeds because they're in part owned by pharmaceutical companies, and they just, my articles on herpes virus, I'm famous for my help for herpes viruses and shingles and Epstein-Barr. They're all herpes viruses. that used to be on page 1, page 2, page 1, page 2, and boom, they changed the algorithm and they're all on page 10 and 12. So I can't spend enough millions of dollars to buy my way back to page 1 for hundreds of articles. So I just stopped, and it's sad.
Well, this has been so informative tonight. I feel like we've only touched a tidbit of what knowledge you have. I would really love to have you back on and dive deeper into each segment of this, because I just feel like you're just a wealth of knowledge, and so much for not only those of us with chronic health conditions, but the public in general, the caretakers of these patients.
And I just want to say something, that food and sleep are absolutely the place for everybody to start. And I get people contacting me, can you help me with my migraines? And, oh yeah, I have rheumatoid arthritis and only one kidney. And I'm like, okay, now wait a second. We started out with migraines, but that's the way we all are. And I don't want to find it out when I start going through all the pages of forms I have them fill out. So I have people start with a week's food diary and of everything they ate and drank and their sleep and their hours and how much. I can get so much data from that. But food and sleep for anybody, it's where we start. You got to get off the grains and the sugars and the excess carbs, and start eating heartily of the animal kingdom, the healthy animals and the good fats, and lots of cooked vegetables. I don't do a lot of raw vegetables. They're actually very hard to digest. And then use some GABA, some pharma GABA, and some other herbs to help you sleep, and experiment. Keep little journal, like, okay, I took 1 squirt of your Beverly's passion flower and that did nothing. And I'm like, yes, because directions say if you're using it to fall asleep, you might need 2, 3, or 4 squirts. And then if you're not asleep in an hour, take another 2, 3, or 4 squirts. It'll work. But you have to learn
your
yourself
body
and
works.
Yeah, and that day. So that's why the one rule does not fit all circumstances, because we're different from hour to hour, day to day.
Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, Beverly, for coming on and sharing your story, sharing your voice. It's truly something that needs more out there in our society today, especially with all of the artificial stuff. So I appreciate you coming on and being that voice for the
paleo. Think Paleolithic
paleo diet. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have come on and my listeners, if you have been impacted by this episode or any of our episodes, I encourage you to go to our website, chronictruthpodcast.com. That's chronictruthpodcast.com. Click on testimonial, share your story with us. Let us know how these episodes are impacting your life. And until next week, thank you.
Thank you.